There's a strange paradox that governs life. The harder you try to force something, the further it seems to slip away. You've probably felt it. The more desperately you want someone's approval, the colder they become. The harder you push for success, the more it eludes you. The more you chase peace, the more restless your mind grows. And yet, the moment you stop chasing, the moment you breathe, release, and trust, everything begins to align. Why is that? Why does trying too hard seem to push life away? The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. They didn't call it manifestation, but they spoke of harmony with nature, a flow that only begins when the mind stops fighting reality. He who is brave is free, Seneca said, and there is no bravery greater than letting go of control. We live in a culture obsessed with doing. Hustle more, grind harder, wake up earlier, stay later, push through. It's a mindset that has produced results, yes, but also burnout, anxiety, and spiritual exhaustion. We've been conditioned to believe that everything valuable must be chased, wrestled, or forced into being. But what if real power is found not in tension, but in relaxation? What if the secret to manifesting everything you want begins with one simple idea? Stop trying so hard. When you stop chasing the wrong things, Lolly Daskell wrote, you give the right things a chance to catch you. And that single sentence captures the essence of what the Stoics lived by. We become so attached to outcomes that we lose ourselves in the process. We forget that control is an illusion. You cannot command the wind. You can only adjust your sails. When you fight the current, you drown. When you surrender to it, you glide. Trying too hard is a form of fear. It's the fear that if you don't push, if you don't strain, if you don't manipulate every variable, life will not deliver what you want. But the Stoics taught the opposite, that trust in the natural order is the highest form of intelligence. Epictetus said, do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do happen. That is freedom. That is peace. And paradoxically, that is when life begins to give you what you once chased so desperately. When you release the grip of control, you return to your natural frequency, calm, aware, open. It's from this place that the real magic begins. Imagine trying to hold water in a clenched fist. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. Now imagine opening your hand. The water rests there, effortlessly. That's what it means to relax and allow. The world reflects your internal state. If you radiate fear, resistance, or desperation, the universe mirrors it back. You attract delay, confusion, and struggle. But when you relax, when you embody trust, peace, and detachment, you become a magnet for everything aligned with that energy. That's why some people seem to manifest effortlessly. It's not that they work harder, it's that they work differently. They act without anxiety, they move without attachment, they create without fear, they do what's in their control, and then they release what's not. Marcus Aurelius once said, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. He meant, discipline your mind, not the world. Because when you learn to master your inner state, the external world starts to align. Think about it. How many opportunities have you missed because you were too tense, too impatient, too consumed with making things happen right now? When you act from tension, you close off intuition. And intuition is the quiet language through which the universe guides you. Effort has its place, yes, but forced effort comes from lack. Relaxed effort comes from abundance. One is rooted in fear, the other in faith. The Stoics were not passive dreamers. They took bold, disciplined action. But they understood that the outcome was never fully theirs to command. They acted in harmony with fate, what they called the logos, the rational order of the universe. They knew that peace was power, because when your mind is still, your actions are pure. When your energy is calm, your impact multiplies. Life doesn't respond to panic. It responds to presence. The more still you are, the more clearly you see. The more clearly you see, the more wisely you move. And the more wisely you move, the less you need to push. You start to realize that manifestation isn't magic. It's alignment. And alignment only happens in peace. You can't force a flower to bloom. You can water it, tend the soil and give it sunlight, but then you wait. You trust that nature will do what nature does. That's the Stoic way. You prepare with discipline, you release with faith. And somewhere between effort and surrender, life unfolds. Trying too hard is like shouting in a quiet room. The more noise you make, the less you hear. Relaxation isn't laziness, it's receptivity. It's creating space for life to meet you halfway. You begin to sense the subtle timing of things, when to act, when to rest, when to speak, when to listen. You stop living from reaction and start living from rhythm. In that state, coincidences begin to appear. But they're not coincidences. They're confirmations that you've entered flow. The Stoics didn't talk about vibration or frequency, but they lived by it. To live in accordance with nature meant to vibrate at the same rhythm as life itself. Not slower, not faster, but in tune. And when you're in tune, everything feels effortless. The right people show up. The right ideas come. The timing feels perfect. You don't force the door, it opens. So if you've been struggling, chasing, forcing, exhausted by the pursuit of what you want, maybe it's time to stop running. Maybe it's time to breathe, to let go, to trust that life knows what it's doing, because it does. Every sunset, every tide, every heartbeat follows the same rhythm. The same intelligence that makes the stars move also moves through you. He who is brave is free, Seneca said, and letting go is the bravest thing you'll ever do. When you relax, you release resistance. When you release resistance, you align. When you align, life flows toward you, not because you demanded it, but because you became open to receive it. The first step to effortless manifesting isn't to visualize harder or want more. It's to soften. The universe doesn't respond to struggle. It responds to serenity. So take a breath. Loosen your grip. Trust that what's meant for you will never miss you. Because when you finally stop forcing, you'll realize something powerful. It was never about chasing at all. It was always about becoming calm enough to let it arrive. Some people walk into a room and instantly change the atmosphere. Not because they speak loudly, not because they demand attention, but because they radiate something rare. Stillness. There's a quiet confidence about them, an energy that says, I don't need to prove anything. That's power, and it's the kind of power that doesn't come from control, but from calm. The Stoics understood that calmness isn't weakness. It's the highest form of strength. When your mind is still, you stop reacting to noise. You stop chasing validation. You stop leaking energy into what doesn't matter. Instead, your presence becomes magnetic. You draw things in, people, opportunities, ideas, simply because your energy is stable, grounded, and peaceful. Lao Tzu said, "Silence is a source of great strength." And that's exactly what modern life has forgotten. We've been trained to equate noise with progress. Constant notifications, endless opinions, perpetual busyness. But beneath all that noise there is a deeper current, the stillness that creates everything. Stillness is not the absence of movement, it's the mastery of it. It's knowing when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to listen. Most people are chaotic inside. Their thoughts run wild, their emotions swing violently, and their energy spills in every direction. They live in constant reaction. They are pushed and pulled by everything outside them. But when you cultivate stillness, you become the unmoving center. The world still moves, but you are not shaken by it. You respond, not react. You see, not merely look. You choose, not just follow impulse. The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, Marcus Aurelius wrote, the closer he is to strength, because calmness allows clarity, and clarity allows power. When you are calm, you see reality as it is, not as your fears or desires distort it. You make better choices, attract better outcomes, and move through life with quiet precision. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing only what matters. It means no wasted motion, no forced effort, no inner noise. It's like the surface of a lake on a windless morning, perfectly still, perfectly reflective. You can see the sky clearly only when the water is calm. In the same way, you can see truth only when your mind is still. But our culture rewards chaos. It rewards noise. It rewards those who shout the loudest. So we learn to fill silence because we're afraid of what it might reveal. Yet the Stoics embraced silence as the highest teacher. They believed that the person who can remain still in chaos is the one who truly commands themselves, and by extension, the world. Calmness changes your frequency. It literally alters how people perceive you. When you are calm, your voice slows, your eyes soften, your gestures carry weight. You stop rushing your words, your thoughts, your life. Others begin to trust you, not because you dominate, but because you're grounded. People crave stability, and calm people provide it. They are like an anchor in the storm. Peace, Norman Vincent Peale said, is the power center of life. And he was right. True power doesn't explode outward. It radiates inward. It moves subtly, steadily, invisibly, like gravity. You don't see gravity, but you feel its pull. You don't see calm energy, but you feel its presence. Think about the people who have inspired you most. It's rarely those who panic, complain, or chase attention. It's those who hold their composure when others lose theirs. It's those who listen more than they speak. Those who respond with wisdom instead of noise. That is the energy of mastery. That is the essence of Stoicism. Stillness is also deeply connected to manifestation. Because when you are still, you stop creating resistance. You stop trying to control every outcome. You stop sending mixed signals to the universe. You become clear. Your desires become focused. Your mind becomes receptive. You can't attract what you're not ready to receive. And you can't receive if your hands, mind, and heart are full of noise. The more still you become, the more sensitive you are to guidance, that quiet inner intuition that whispers where to go next. When your energy is chaotic, that guidance is drowned out. You can't hear inspiration when your mind is screaming. You can't see opportunity when your emotions are fogging your vision. Stillness is clarity, and clarity is creation. When you're calm, you become aware of subtle synchronicities. The right person appearing at the right time, the perfect phrase you needed to hear, the small sign that reminds you you're on track. Those moments aren't coincidences. They're reflections of your internal alignment. When your energy is coherent, reality reflects coherence. But when your energy is frantic, reality mirrors confusion. Calmness is coherence. It's the alignment between thought, emotion, and presence. You no longer scatter your energy by overthinking the future or regretting the past. You exist here, now. And that's where all manifestation happens. Stillness connects you to the present moment, and the present moment is where power lives. You can't manifest from anxiety because anxiety lives in the future. You can't manifest from regret because regret lives in the past. But when you relax into now, you're in harmony with reality itself. The Stoics didn't chase control, they practiced serenity. They sought to master their response to life, not life itself, because when your inner state is calm, even chaos becomes manageable. It's not about escaping life's storms, it's about learning to be still within them. Imagine being like a mountain. The wind howls, the storms pass, the seasons change, but the mountain remains unmoved. That's the Stoic path. That's effortless power. Stillness is not withdrawal from life. It's participation without losing yourself in it. It's not about isolation. It's about inner insulation. The world can scream, and you'll still hear your own voice clearly. The world can rush, and you'll still move at your own pace. The world can fall apart, and you'll still stand. When you reach this level of calm, you become magnetic. People feel safe around you. They listen when you speak. They sense that you're not trying to get something from them, and that sincerity draws them in. Life itself begins to respond in the same way. Opportunities flow to calm energy because calmness signals readiness. The universe trusts those who are patient, and patience is born in stillness. The great paradox is that stillness is not the end of action. It's the foundation of effective action. When you act from calmness, your movements are powerful and precise. You waste no effort. You act in alignment with timing, not against it. That's what makes calmness magnetic. It's not idle, it's intelligent. And the more you practice it, the more your energy transforms from scattered to centered, from restless to radiant. So slow down, breathe. Let the noise of the world fade into the background. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to rush to arrive. You only need to be still. And in that stillness, everything that's meant for you begins to move toward you. Because calmness isn't passive, it's powerful. And the most magnetic energy of all is peace. You can't control the waves, but you can learn to surf. That is the foundation of Stoicism and the secret behind effortless manifestation. The more you try to control outcomes, the more they resist you. But the more you release, the more life unfolds with grace. Most people live their lives gripping tightly to results, constantly asking, when will it happen? Why hasn't it happened yet? What if it never does? That mental tension creates resistance. It's like trying to drive with the parking brake on, all energy, no movement. Detachment is not about giving up on your goals. It's about releasing the anxiety that surrounds them. It's about doing what you can and letting the rest happen as it must. The Stoics knew this deeply. They taught that peace is found not in controlling life, but in controlling your response to it. The best revenge, Marcus Aurelius said, is to be unlike your enemy. And your greatest enemy is often your own impatience. When you attach your happiness to a specific outcome, you give your peace away. You tell the universe, I'll only be happy when this happens. But that very energy, that desperation, repels the thing you want, because you are affirming its absence, not its presence. Detachment, on the other hand, sends a different message. I trust that what's meant for me is already on its way. It's calm confidence. It's faith in motion. It's the knowing that what you desire is already aligning, and your only job is to stay in tune with it. Buddha said, attachment is the root of suffering. He wasn't telling you to stop caring. He was reminding you that clinging to outcomes creates pain. When you detach, you stop fighting reality. You stop trying to bend time, people, and circumstances to your will. You move from resistance to rhythm. Imagine standing in a river. If you push against the current, you exhaust yourself. But if you let go and flow with it, you move effortlessly. That's detachment. Not the absence of direction, but the presence of trust. The Stoics called it amor fati, love of fate. To love whatever happens, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. When you align with intention, you begin to manifest not through fear, but through faith. Intention is your inner compass. It's the why behind your actions. It's not about forcing an external result. It's about embodying the internal energy that attracts it. Set your heart upon your work, the Bhagavad Gita says, but never on its reward. That single sentence carries infinite wisdom. You do your part, with love, with focus, with integrity, and then you release attachment to the outcome. You trust that the results will come when the timing is right. Detachment is not coldness. It's clarity. It's standing in your power without needing to control what's beyond it. When you act from a place of peace, your actions have precision. They're not clouded by fear or urgency. You send a clear signal to the universe. I'm ready, I'm open, I'm patient. And patience is the language of mastery. Think about a seed. You plant it, you water it, and then you wait. You don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You trust the unseen process. That's how manifestation works. When you detach, you stop interrupting the natural flow of growth. You stop sabotaging your progress with worry. You trust the invisible. You align your vibration with what you want, but you don't chase it. You become it. You become the energy of what you wish to attract. You stop asking for love and start being love. You stop asking for abundance and start living with gratitude. You stop begging for peace and start embodying calmness. When you do that, reality adjusts to match your state. The The Stoics understood this alignment long before the word manifestation existed. To live with intention was to live with virtue, courage, temperance, wisdom, and justice. When those inner virtues aligned, life outside began to reflect harmony. That's how detachment works. You create inner order, and outer order follows. Detachment also protects you. It shields you from emotional volatility. When things don't go as planned, you don't collapse. You adapt. You remind yourself, I control my effort, not the outcome. That mindset is liberating, because if your peace depends on everything going your way, you'll be miserable most of your life. But if your peace depends only on your alignment, your choices, your mindset, your presence, then nothing can shake you. You become unshakable. You become stoic. Detachment is emotional intelligence in motion. It means you can care deeply and still remain centered. You can want something passionately and still be okay without it. That's real freedom, because nothing owns you. You own yourself. The more detached you become, the more attractive you become. People can feel when you're not grasping, when your energy is relaxed, when your confidence isn't conditional. That's why detachment is magnetic. It signals wholeness. It says, I'm already complete, and completeness attracts completeness. In truth, detachment doesn't kill desire. It purifies it. It removes fear, need, and scarcity. It replaces, I must have this to be happy with, I'll be happy either way. And ironically, that's when life gives it to you. Because you've stopped creating resistance. You've stopped blocking the flow. You've learned to trust timing. The Stoics lived by the principle that life is a mixture of what's within your control and what isn't. Focus on what is, accept what isn't. Control your thoughts, actions, and character, and release everything else. In that space, you find peace. Detachment isn't about losing ambition. It's about losing tension. You can dream big and still be calm. You can want deeply and still rest. You can pursue goals with drive and still remain peaceful inside. That balance, that quiet intensity, is the state of flow. It's where manifestation becomes effortless. Because you're no longer chasing outcomes, you're aligning with them. You're moving in sync with life, not against it. Imagine saying to yourself each morning, I will act with clarity, I will release with trust, and I will receive with grace. That's the formula. Detach from outcome, align with intention, and let the universe do the heavy lifting. You'll begin to notice something subtle. You stop forcing doors open, and doors begin opening for you. You stop chasing signs, and signs start appearing uninvited. You stop worrying about the how, and the how unfolds naturally. That is the power of detachment. That is the secret of effortless creation. It's not about controlling life. It's about dancing with it. The more you let go, the more it flows. The less you demand, the more you receive. The calmer you are, the faster things align. So release your grip. Breathe deeply. Trust that what is meant for you cannot miss you, and what is not meant for you cannot stay. Detach not to escape life, but to experience it fully. Detach not to stop caring, but to care without fear. Detach not to lose desire, but to find peace within it. When you master detachment, you master life itself. Because in that moment you realize the truth. It was never about controlling outcomes. It was always about aligning your inner world and letting the outer world reflect it. Inside every human being, there burns a fire. It begins as pure energy, curiosity, desire, imagination. But somewhere along the way, most people lose control of it. The same fire that can warm your world can also burn it down. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that emotions are not enemies, they are forces. And like all forces, they must be guided. Most people try to suppress their emotions. They mistake stillness for numbness. They think being calm means being cold. But suppression isn't mastery. The Stoics didn't teach emotional repression. They taught emotional direction. They believed that passion, when disciplined by wisdom, becomes purpose. But passion without control becomes chaos. That's why Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Our emotions, when left unexamined, become storms that cloud our judgment. The Stoic path was not about becoming emotionless. It was about becoming uncontrolled by emotion, to feel deeply but remain steady, to experience pain but not drown in it, to face anger, fear, or desire and say, "You may visit, but you will not rule." That's the art of emotional alchemy, transforming reaction into reflection, chaos into clarity. "He who angers you conquers you," Elizabeth Kenny once said. Every time you lose control, you hand your power to the world. Every time you explode, you reveal where you are still a prisoner. The fire within you is sacred. It's your drive, your spirit, your life force. But like any flame, it needs containment. A fire without boundaries destroys. A fire with direction illuminates. The goal is not to extinguish it, but to give it purpose, to turn raw emotion into refined power. Tony Robbins once said, "Energy flows where attention goes." The Stoics would have agreed, whatever you focus on expands. If your attention is fixed on fear, fear grows. If your attention is fixed on gratitude, gratitude expands. Your emotion fuels your reality, but you must decide what kind of world you want to energize. The truth is, emotions are neutral until you interpret them. Anger can become destruction or determination. Fear can become paralysis or preparation. Sadness can become despair or depth. It's not the emotion that defines you, it's what you do with it. The Stoics trained daily in emotional awareness. They examined their thoughts like a gardener examines soil, removing weeds before they spread. They practiced reflection, journaling, and meditation long before those words existed. They asked themselves, "Why do I feel this? What is it teaching me? Is this emotion serving me or enslaving me?" That's self-mastery, not suppression, but understanding. The fire of emotion can be your greatest ally if you learn to direct it. Think of a blacksmith. He uses fire to shape metal, but he never lets it consume his forge. In the same way, your emotions can shape your destiny if you learn to master their heat. Life will always give you triggers. You'll face people who test your patience, situations that provoke fear, and disappointments that stir anger. But in those moments, you have a choice, to react or to respond. Reaction is unconscious. It's fire running wild. Response is conscious. It's fire under control. And that difference determines everything. The Stoics understood that the world outside you is neutral. What gives it color is the lens of your mind. Two people can face the same challenge. One panics, the other grows. The difference is perception. The Stoics called this discipline prohairesis, the inner faculty of choice. It's the space between stimulus and response where freedom lives. Your power lies in that space, because when you learn to master emotion, you master energy. And when you master energy, you master manifestation. Manifestation is not just thought, it's feeling. But the feeling must be steady, not chaotic. Imagine trying to paint while your hand shakes. That's what most people do when they try to create their reality from emotional turbulence. The picture becomes messy because the energy is unstable. Calm doesn't mean cold, it means precise. Emotion is your paint, but stillness is your brush. When you combine the two, passion guided by peace, you become a creator. You manifest intentionally, not accidentally. You stop letting moods dictate your days. You begin to sense the undercurrent beneath every feeling, the message, the lesson, the signal. And instead of drowning in emotion, you learn to surf it. You ride the wave instead of fighting it. This is the true Stoic path. Not denial of emotion, but mastery through awareness. Seneca once wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." The Stoics didn't fear discomfort, they embraced it. They knew that fire tempers steel and emotion tempers character. Anger teaches patience, fear teaches courage, grief teaches gratitude. Every emotion has a purpose, if you have the courage to face it instead of fleeing it. When you understand this, you stop running from life. You stop labeling emotions as good or bad. You start seeing them as teachers. The goal is not to feel nothing, but to feel everything without losing yourself. To stay centered in the storm, to burn bright but never burn out. When you live this way, your manifestation becomes clean, pure, and powerful. Because your intention is not distorted by panic or desperation. You act from clarity, not chaos. You attract not from need, but from alignment. You no longer say, "I'll manifest when I'm calm." You say, "I am calm, therefore I manifest." The Stoics found strength in serenity because serenity allowed them to act with precision. They knew that when emotion rules, wisdom sleeps. But when wisdom rules, emotion serves. Your emotions are not barriers to manifestation. They're bridges. They connect thought to reality. They give power to words and momentum to belief. The key is direction. Don't let the fire consume you. Let it fuel you. Let it light your path. Let it purify what's false and illuminate what's true. The inner fire is not your enemy. It's your compass. When you master it, you stop being a slave to circumstance. You stop saying, "They made me angry," and start saying, "I chose peace." That's the Stoic way, and that's the key to effortless creation. Because when your emotions serve your intention, your energy becomes unstoppable. You no longer react to the world, you shape it. The same fire that once burned you now lights your way. The same emotions that once controlled you now obey you. You have learned to master yourself, and in mastering yourself, you begin to master reality. There's a rhythm beneath everything. You can't see it, but you can feel it. It moves the tides, it turns the seasons, it beats within your chest. The Stoics called it nature, the Taoists called it the way, and modern thinkers call it flow. It's the silent intelligence that organizes the universe, the same force that makes flowers bloom, planets spin, and hearts keep time. And yet, most people spend their lives fighting it. They doubt the process, they question the timing, they try to control what can only be trusted. But here's the paradox. The moment you stop forcing and start flowing, life begins to align. Faith isn't blind belief. It's deep alignment with what's unseen. It's understanding that life unfolds according to laws beyond our full comprehension, and our job is not to control those laws, but to cooperate with them. "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished," wrote Lao Tzu. Those words are a mirror held up to modern anxiety. We rush, we push, we demand results now. But nature reminds us that patience isn't delay, it's wisdom. The Stoics lived by that truth. They believed the universe is rational, ordered and purposeful, even when it appears chaotic. Marcus Aurelius said, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny." That is the essence of faith in flow. It's not about surrendering to laziness, but surrendering to trust. To trust that the same intelligence that guides the stars is guiding your path. Faith begins where sight ends. It starts when logic runs out and something deeper takes over. That quiet knowing that whispers, "You're exactly where you need to be." But faith is hard because it requires surrender of control, and control gives us the illusion of safety. Yet every time you try to force timing, you create resistance. Every time you demand certainty, you disconnect from flow. The Stoic doesn't waste energy resisting fate. He learns to dance with it. He does what's within his control and releases what's not. That balance between effort and trust is where true manifestation happens. Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase, said Martin Luther King Jr. That is flow. Walking forward without seeing the path, but knowing the ground will appear beneath your feet. When you trust the unseen, your nervous system relaxes. Your energy becomes lighter, clearer, more magnetic. You stop living in the vibration of fear and move into the frequency of faith. That shift changes everything. Because faith is not just belief, it's energy alignment. It tells the universe, "I am ready to receive." When you truly trust the process, you stop chasing signs and start becoming one. You begin to notice that life responds faster when you stop doubting it. Synchronicities multiply. The right opportunities seem to find you. People show up at the perfect moment. and you realize it was never luck. It was flow. It was always there, waiting for you to stop resisting. Trust doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you act when intuition nudges you and rest when it doesn't. It's moving with the rhythm of life instead of against it. Think of a surfer waiting for a wave. He doesn't fight the ocean. He watches. He listens. He studies the rhythm, and when the right moment comes, he paddles with the flow, not against it. That's what faith looks like in daily life. Not passive waiting, but intelligent cooperation. The Stoics practiced this every day. They began mornings reminding themselves that whatever happens is part of nature's plan. They didn't pray for outcomes. They prayed for clarity, for strength, for peace in the face of uncertainty. They didn't need to know the how. They only needed to stay in harmony with the now, and that's the secret. The more you trust the unseen, the more you realize it has always been working for you. Even your delays have purpose. Even your detours hold lessons. Even your losses redirect you to better paths. The universe isn't punishing you, it's preparing you, but you can only see that in hindsight, and hindsight comes from patience. Patience is faith in slow motion. Faith means saying, I may not understand this moment, but I trust its necessity. When you live this way, fear begins to dissolve, because fear thrives in the unknown, but faith transforms the unknown into adventure. You begin to feel supported, guided, protected by something vast and intelligent. You stop believing life is happening to you and start realizing life is happening through you. The Stoics called this logos, the divine order, the rational structure of all things. When you trust it, you step into alignment with reality itself. You stop swimming against the current and start gliding with it. And life suddenly feels effortless. But trust requires courage. The courage to let go of control, the courage to embrace uncertainty, the courage to believe that not knowing is safe. That's the hardest lesson for the modern mind. We've been taught that control equals safety, but in truth, control equals tension. Faith equals freedom. To trust is to relax into the infinite intelligence that governs everything. It's realizing that what you call chance is actually choreography. Every encounter, every delay, every heartbreak has meaning. You don't need to see it to know it. You only need to stay open. Flow is the art of receiving without resistance, and resistance always comes from fear. When you stop fearing the future opens. When you stop doubting your worth, opportunities find you. When you stop rushing time, time bends in your favor. That's how the unseen works. It moves for you when you stop fighting it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, everything that happens is either endurable or not. If endurable, endure it. If not, then it's beyond your power. Remember, it's nature's way that mindset frees you. It allows you to live with peace even when life makes no sense. It turns uncertainty into wonder. It turns waiting into wisdom. It turns surrender into strength. Faith is not just belief in the unseen, it's partnership with it. It's saying, I'll show up fully and I trust life to meet me halfway. And it always does. When you relax into that truth, manifestation becomes effortless, because your energy is no longer clogged with fear, impatience, or doubt. You've cleared space for miracles. You've entered the flow where everything you desire already exists. The river of life doesn't need your panic. It needs your participation. It needs your willingness to trust its current. You're not being tested, you're being taught to receive. So breathe deeply, loosen your grip. Trust the rhythm that's been guiding you since birth. The same rhythm that turns night into day, seed into tree, longing into fulfillment. You don't have to force life to happen. You only have to believe it's happening for you, because it is, always has been, always will be. You don't need to force your dreams into existence. You need to become the kind of person for whom those dreams are natural. That's the difference between control and coherence. Control says, I'll make this happen, no matter what. Coherence says, I'll align with what I desire, and it will come naturally. Most people try to manifest through pressure. They push, they struggle, they grasp. They believe that sheer effort will bend the universe to their will. But the Stoics, and every wise tradition that ever existed, knew that true power is not in force. It's in harmony. When your mind, heart, and actions are aligned, creation becomes effortless. You become a calm creator. The world begins to move in rhythm with your energy because you've stopped fighting yourself. To be calm, says a Zen proverb, is the highest achievement of the self. The calm person doesn't act out of desperation or fear. They act from clarity. Their energy is steady. Their intention is pure. They don't send mixed signals to the universe. They know what they want, but they're not frantic about getting it. And that's why things seem to unfold easily for them. Calmness isn't passive. It's precise. It's power without tension. It's strength without noise. The Stoics knew that the first step to mastering the outer world is mastering the inner one. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When your thoughts are scattered, your results are scattered. But when your thoughts, emotions, and actions are in coherence, your life becomes ordered. Coherence is when every part of you moves in the same direction, your logic, your emotion, and your will. When these align, you stop leaking energy. You stop contradicting yourself. You stop saying you want peace but living in chaos, saying you want love but holding on to resentment, saying you want abundance but focusing on lack. The calm creator understands that the universe doesn't respond to words. It responds to vibration. And vibration is created by coherence. You can say affirmations all day long, but if your body is tense, your heart doubtful, and your mind restless, you're broadcasting confusion. Life mirrors that confusion. But when you're calm, when your mind is quiet and your heart is steady, your energy becomes a clear signal. You send one message, not 10. You align your being, and the universe aligns around you. Coherence is the true art of manifestation. It's not wishing, it's being. It's not about forcing reality to change. It's about changing your internal frequency so that reality has to reflect it. The Stoics called this living in accordance with nature. It meant living in harmony with the universal order, aligning your actions with reason, virtue, and truth. They believed that chaos in the soul creates chaos in life, while inner order brings outer order. The same principle governs manifestation. You can't attract peace from turmoil. You can't draw abundance from fear. You can't create love from resentment. You must first become what you seek. That's coherence. It's inner order manifesting as outer harmony. Augustine once said, "Order your soul, reduce your wants, live in peace." That sentence could serve as the blueprint for every creator. Because creation is not about adding more, it's about removing resistance. When you are coherent, you no longer need to chase what's missing. You simply allow what's meant to find you. Calmness brings coherence because calmness removes interference. Imagine tuning an old radio. If there's static, the message gets lost. But when you fine-tune the dial, the sound becomes clear. Your energy works the same way. Anxiety is static. Doubt is static. Impatience is static. Calmness is clarity. When you live in coherence, your intuition becomes stronger. You stop overthinking because you trust your inner guidance. You no longer need external validation because you've found internal alignment. You move through life like a river, graceful, directed, unstoppable. The calm creator doesn't waste time trying to control every detail. They focus on being the vibration of the reality they wish to experience. They act with discipline, but without tension. They trust timing. They stay consistent, but unattached. This is not weakness. It's mastery. It's living as a co-creator, not a controller. The Stoics were masters of coherence. They believed that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the mastery of the self within it. When the world around them was chaotic, they returned to their inner compass. That's what calm creation is, knowing that your inner state defines your outer experience. When you're coherent, you stop fighting shadows. You don't waste energy on what doesn't matter. You stop trying to fix the world and start refining your state. Because the more coherent your energy, the more reality harmonizes with it. Think about it this way. Everything you want already exists. Every possibility is a frequency waiting to be matched. You don't need to invent it. You need to align with it. Coherence is the bridge between imagination and manifestation. It's the space where thought, emotion, and action move as one. And that unity creates momentum. You no longer live from reaction. You live from resonance. You stop asking, "How do I make this happen?" and start asking, "How do I become the person for whom this is natural?" That single shift changes everything. Because manifestation is not manipulation, it's resonance. The more coherent you become, the less effort you need. You start noticing that people respond to your calmness. Opportunities flow to your clarity. Synchronicities increase because your vibration is stable. You're no longer scattered, so reality stops being scattered too. Calmness attracts completion. Coherence invites creation. And both begin with awareness. When you find yourself rushing, pause. When you catch yourself worrying, breathe. Return to calm. Every moment you choose peace, you strengthen coherence. Every time you center your mind, you send a clearer signal. And over time, those small moments of alignment become a powerful field around you. That field changes everything. You don't chase, you attract. You don't control, you cooperate. You don't struggle, you flow. That's the calm creator. That's the stoic artist of life. And the secret is simple. The quieter your mind becomes, the louder your results get. The more you align within, the more the world aligns without. You don't have to make it happen. You only have to be coherent enough for it to happen through you. Because when you stop trying to control everything, you realize you were never meant to control. You were meant to create. Gratitude is more than saying, "Thank you." It's a frequency. A state of being that opens the doors of the universe. The Stoics understood this long before modern science began to study the effects of gratitude on the brain. They lived by it. They woke each morning with appreciation for the simple fact that they were alive. Marcus Aurelius began his day reminding himself, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." Gratitude shifts your vibration. It pulls you out of lack and into abundance. You can't feel grateful and resentful at the same time. One cancels the other. That's why gratitude is not just polite. It's powerful. It's an energetic invitation for more to arrive. Aesop once said, "Gratitude turns what we have into enough. And when something becomes enough, it multiplies." Because the universe mirrors your internal state. When you feel lack, you confirm scarcity. When you feel abundance, you attract abundance. Gratitude is the bridge between desire and fulfillment. It's how you tell life, "I see the good that already exists." And life responds by giving you more of what you notice. Most people live in a cycle of wanting. They see what's missing instead of what's present. They wait for happiness until something changes, not realizing that happiness is what changes everything. Gratitude is not ignoring what's wrong. It's choosing to focus on what's right. It's rebalancing perception, seeing that even in hardship, something beautiful remains. The Stoics practiced this through premeditatio malorum, the contemplation of loss. They would imagine losing what they had, not to create fear, but to deepen appreciation. To look at their loved ones, their homes, their health, and realize these are gifts, not guarantees. Gratitude makes you present. It pulls you out of the chase for more and reminds you that everything you need is already within reach. And paradoxically, that's when more begins to arrive. Because when you stop needing, you start receiving. The act of gratitude is an act of surrender. It says, "I trust life." It says, "I may not have everything I want, but I have everything I need for this moment." That energy is irresistible to the universe. Melody Beattie once wrote, "The universe loves a grateful heart." Gratitude softens the ego and opens the heart. It dissolves resistance and creates flow. It turns waiting into appreciation and appreciation into magnetism. Surrender is the next step in this art of receiving. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means giving over, releasing the need to control outcomes and trusting the intelligence that runs the universe. You let go of the steering wheel and trust that the road is already drawn. The Stoics called this acceptance of fate. They didn't see surrender as weakness, but as wisdom. They understood that resistance to reality is the root of suffering. The more you fight what is, the more you suffer. The more you accept, the more peace you find. Surrender is the practice of relaxing into the truth that life knows what it's doing. You can still have goals, you can still act, but your energy shifts from tension to trust. You move from "I must make this happen" to "I'll do my part and allow the rest to unfold." This shift is not passive. It's the highest form of intelligence, because when you stop forcing outcomes, you stop creating friction. You allow timing to work in your favor. You let divine order take the lead, and you realize that surrender is not the end of action. It's the beginning of alignment. Gratitude and surrender are two sides of the same coin. Gratitude opens your heart. Surrender opens your hands. Together, they create the art of receiving. The truth is, most people aren't bad at manifesting. They're bad at receiving. They ask, they visualize, they dream. But when life tries to give, they're too busy doubting, controlling, or resisting to accept it. To receive is to trust that you're worthy. It's to let life love you. It's to stop questioning whether you deserve what's coming and simply say, "Thank you." Receiving requires openness, not as a wish, but as a posture. When you're closed off by fear, guilt, or unworthiness, blessings bounce off you. But when you're open, when you believe that what's good for you is allowed to reach you, life rushes in. The Stoics, though often seen as austere, lived in deep acceptance. They didn't cling to pleasure, but they didn't reject it either. They received joy with grace, knowing it was a temporary but beautiful part of the flow. They received pain with the same grace, knowing it too was part of the flow. That is surrender, to stop labeling life as good or bad, and to start seeing it all as purposeful. Gratitude amplifies that perspective. You begin to see how every challenge shaped you, how every delay protected you, how even loss contained a gift. That realization expands your heart and deepens your peace. Gratitude makes surrender easier, and surrender makes gratitude deeper. Together they form a cycle. The more you trust, the more you receive. The more you receive, the more you trust. This is the frequency of abundance. You no longer demand, you invite. You no longer grasp, you allow. You no longer say, "Why me?" but rather, "Thank you for this lesson, this blessing, this moment." Epictetus said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." That's the mindset that opens doors, because when you live in gratitude, you already live in abundance. The universe meets that vibration with more to be grateful for. Gratitude is alignment. Surrender is flow. Receiving is the natural outcome. You don't have to chase. You don't have to control. You simply need to stay open and grateful. When you're in that state, even small things feel miraculous. A conversation, a sunset, a quiet moment of peace. You start realizing that receiving isn't just about big goals. It's about awareness. It's about seeing that life has been giving all along. You were just too focused on what's missing to notice what's overflowing. The art of receiving begins with the art of seeing. When your eyes open in gratitude, your hands open in surrender. And when your hands open, everything you were meant to hold begins to arrive. Gratitude turns energy into abundance. Surrender turns fear into flow. Together, they create a life that feels effortless, not because you get everything you want, but because you finally realize how much you already have. So pause, breathe, look around. Give thanks not because everything is perfect, but because everything is purposeful. Then let go. Allow life to surprise you. You don't need to chase the miracle. You only need to be still enough to receive it. Imagine living as if everything you want has already arrived, not pretending, not forcing belief, but embodying it. That's the effortless state, the place where manifestation stops being something you do and becomes something you are. The Stoics knew this truth well. They taught that peace and purpose aren't things you acquire. They're your natural state, revealed only when illusion falls away. You were never meant to chase wholeness, you were meant to remember it. The effortless state is remembering who you truly are beneath fear, beneath doubt, beneath the noise of striving. It's the return to alignment with what has always been yours. Most people spend their lives waiting to feel complete. They say, when I get there, I'll relax. When I succeed, I'll be happy. When I'm loved, I'll finally feel enough. But that's the trap. Life responds to your being, not your waiting. When you decide to feel complete now, to rest in the energy of fulfillment, you collapse the distance between desire and reality. You become what you've been chasing. That's the Stoic version of manifestation. Embody the virtue, embody the peace, embody the result, and the world must rearrange itself to match. Happiness, love, success, freedom, they are not rewards. They are reflections of your state. You become what you think about, said Earl Nightingale, and the Stoics would add, you also become what you accept. Acceptance is the doorway to the effortless state. When you stop resisting what is, life stops resisting you. You move with the current of reality, not against it. You start realizing that manifestation is not about commanding the universe. It's about cooperating with it. You're not forcing energy, you're flowing with it. The effortless state isn't the absence of effort. It's the absence of friction. You still act, but your actions are smooth, joyful, and clear. You're no longer trying to get things. You're expressing what you already are. That's why everything feels easier. You've stopped chasing and started radiating. When you embody peace, opportunities come. When you embody love, connections deepen. When you embody abundance, resources flow. Life begins to mirror your inner serenity. Be still, says Psalm 46:10, and know that I am God. Stillness is not inactivity, it's awareness. It's the state of knowing that the source of everything you want already lives within you. You're not separate from creation, you're part of it. You are both the wave and the ocean. The Stoics lived in this truth daily. They practiced detachment, not because they rejected life's pleasures, but because they recognized their impermanence. They didn't cling to the external, because they knew the internal was eternal. When you reach the effortless state, your happiness no longer depends on outcomes. You act with integrity, you live with purpose, but you're not shaken by results. Wins and losses, praise and criticism, success and failure, they pass through you like wind through trees. You bend, but you don't break. You flow, but you don't fall. That's freedom, that's power, that's effortless living. In this state, your energy becomes contagious. People feel your calmness and are drawn to it. You no longer try to convince anyone of anything. Your presence does the speaking. You no longer chase love, you embody it. You no longer seek validation, you radiate confidence. You no longer force manifestation, you are manifestation. The universe responds instantly to this level of alignment because there's no contradiction in your signal. You've stopped asking and started being. The effortless state is not something you reach once and keep forever. It's something you practice moment by moment. It's a daily returning to center, a gentle remembering that peace is always one breath away. Even when challenges arise, even when emotions flare, you return to stillness. You anchor yourself in the present, where all creation happens. And from that still point, you shape reality with calm precision. Aristotle said, "Happiness depends on ourselves, not on circumstances, not on luck, on the inner choice to live in coherence with truth." That's the final step of this journey. To stop treating life as something to be conquered and start experiencing it as something to be harmonized with. To move from doing to being, from chasing to attracting, from controlling to creating. When you relax, you align. When you align, you receive. When you receive, you realize there was never anything missing. only forgotten. You don't manifest by becoming more. You manifest by becoming less. Less fearful, less doubtful, less resistant. You strip away the layers of tension until only truth remains. That truth is simple. You are already whole. You are already connected. You are already enough. The Stoic path has always been the same, from chaos to calm, from reaction to reason, from noise to stillness. Because stillness is where your power lives. Stillness is where manifestation begins. Stillness is where the divine within you meets the divine in everything else. And when those two align, life unfolds effortlessly. You are not separate from what you desire. You are made of the same energy that creates it. Once you understand that, there's nothing left to chase. You become the calm center of your own universe, and everything that's meant for you begins to orbit naturally around your peace. That's the effortless state. Not empty, but full. Not idle, but aligned. Not controlling, but creating. This is how the Stoics manifested without even trying, through the steady power of presence, through calmness, coherence, gratitude, and surrender, through living as though they already had everything, because in truth, they did. And now you do too. This is your reminder. You don't need to struggle for your dreams. You need to soften for them. You need to trust that what's truly meant for you will find its way when you are finally still enough to receive it. When you live from that peace, manifestation becomes not an effort, but a natural expression of who you are. And if this message spoke to you, if you felt the truth of stillness and alignment within your own heart, then your next step is clear. Watch my video, How to Never Get Angry Again, the Stoic Path to Unbreakable Calm. Because before you can live in effortless creation, you must master emotional control. You must learn to protect your peace. That video will show you exactly how to become untouchable, unbothered, unshakably calm in a chaotic world. So stay with me. Let's keep walking the Stoic path, from reaction to reflection, from struggle to serenity, from control to effortless creation.